Hi everybody, I'm Julia and this is Julia at Home. If you're new here, welcome. I'm a homeschooling mom. I have a 7-year-old girl, a 5-year-old boy, and a baby girl who's about to turn 1. I have been homeschooling since my oldest was little. We never enrolled them in the school system. This video is a continuation of my Creating a Homeschool Curriculum series. So if you haven't seen the prior videos in the series, they will all be linked below, so go check those out first. In the last part of the series, I was choosing what we were going to do for each of the subjects for each child. So since that video, I have been spending little snippets of time here and there continuing to research, and then I put together a long to-do list. So that's what this video is about. I'm going to share with you my big list that I compiled and talk you through the process as I go. Okay, so here we are. I've been doing some more research and now it is time to turn it into a giant to-do list. I just work better with lists that I can go through and check off. It helps me organize my thoughts in my brain. So I'm going to go ahead and start a screenshot and we'll go back and forth here. I just have a Word document open. It's what I've always used, Word for everything. So that's what I use now. And this is going to be my school prep for 2020 and 2021. Okay, so what I like to do is generally go through subject by subject and make a list of what I still need to do. So that could be anywhere from researching to an actual task like buy something or make something. But I'm actually going to start with miscellaneous here. Miscellaneous. There's always things that I think about that don't go in any particular subject, but are just overall tasks. So I like to put them in there. And I'm actually going to start there by saying there needs to be like reorganization of a lot of things. So I need to reorganize. Oh, let me get my little check mark box thingy. And we will use this one. Okay, I need to reorganize the office school storage, and then I need to rearrange the library because I had it set up for this year and it worked relatively well. You can see I'll link my bookcase tour, but there's some stuff that we're not really using anymore, and some things that I noticed just are taking up space where I would like to put other things. So as always, you know, we adjust as we go. So I'm going to rearrange the library. I'm also going to organize the cabinet and organize in the dining area where I keep art and other school stuff in there. I really want to get a sideboard, so I'm going to see if I can squeeze that into the budget here. That will help me organize that area and make it look nicer and will make me happy. Other miscellaneous things, I want to get a book binder. I've seen people recommend a little Pro Click that does like 6 pages at a time. That's not too expensive. If you have a book binder that you like and would recommend, or one that you don't like and I shouldn't get, please comment below. I'm looking for recommendations on this. I would really like to print out things like my Exploring Nature with Children and geography, which I'll put in their subjects. But anyway, so book binder, and then I'm going to need lots of paper. So I'm going to need to purchase paper and ink if I'm going to be printing these things out. I'm sure we'll come back to more miscellaneous things, but let's go ahead and move on to the first subject. And the first subject here is circle time. Since we've last talked, I've been thinking about, well, everything, but here for circle time, especially under spiritual character, I was thinking of doing Fruits of the Spirits or 7 Principles. I've moved away from that a little bit. I saw Steph Hathaway, you should check out her shop, I will link it below, has free feelings cards that she matched with the book Fred's Big Feelings. And my son has been dealing with just a lot of, he doesn't know what to do when he has his big emotions. And so we've been working on that, and I think I would like some help with that. So, and I still want to, focus on things like kindness and generosity. But what I think I'm going to do is just choose some of those traits myself instead of following a set, like focus, like the spirits or the 7 principles. We can even adjust as the year goes on to what I'm feeling like my kids and my family needs. So we're going to start with the feelings. I already have some books on kindness and generosity. I have books on meditation and stuff. I have stuff I'd got for our sitting together curriculum. I will link my review of the sitting together curriculum here as well. And so I'm going to try to use what I have, but also maybe just get a few more items. I also have Laying Down the Rails, which is a Simply Charlotte Mason product about habit training, Charlotte Mason style. And it goes through the different habits that Charlotte Mason wanted children and their parents to develop. So I might use that as a help too. So under my circle time, under my circle time list here, one of the first things here is going to be to choose some, what we'll call them habits / character traits to work on. And then resources, or what we're going to do for those habits. And then I also want to make sure, that will be choose and acquire. Let's make that 2 different. Choose resources for those habits and acquire resources. And holidays. What will, like list of books, activities, mostly going to be books for each. Do I need to purchase any? Okay. So again, this is like almost like a brain dump, but in an organized fashion. So hopefully this is making sense to you. So that takes care of that section. Poetry and recitation, seasonal songs and finger plays. You can see I've started listing off. I found a site, Little Songster. I can also link that below, that has folk songs, and she has them. You can listen to them on the site, and you can also purchase, I think it's downloads. I don't know if she has physical CDs or not, but that's really cool. I really like that. I think it's Charlotte Mason inspired folk singing, for based in the United States. But for poetry, seasonal plays, finger plays, baby songs, I have the list here, but I'm also going to look back over past years. So basically, I just need to choose and put together monthly circle times. And I did it by month this past year, and I liked that. So I'm going to do that again. And I'll definitely show you how I organize that, because I really like how I've had it organized this year. That made it really simple for me, and I enjoyed it. So there we go, circle time. And I think that's it for circle time. Yeah. Okay, history. Ooh, there's a lot more to do for history here. Now, let me share with you that I've decided to add in the history of the U.S., chapters 4 through 13 on the first Americans. As I was going through Story of the World, Volume 2, looking at it, it does get into like Columbus and Cortez, and, you know, people coming over to the Americas from Europe and colonizing. And there is like one chapter on like the Aztecs, Incas, and Mayas, and then another one where like Cortez is there. But there wasn't really anything on the other Native American tribes that were here, especially in North America. And I just want it to be really clear to my children that at this time period we're studying, there were people here, that I don't know if she ends up covering it more in the next book. Like, it seems like it's covered a lot in conjunction with colonization. And I really want to make it clear as we do the study of history, that they were here before colonization and had their own culture, and that, or many cultures really, and that we want to give them their respect and study them as well, because they are partly our heritage in that we live here now and may or may not have Native American ancestry. That's like it's a family mystery. Either way, not enough to call ourselves Native American, but We are also descended from colonizers, from people who came over with William Penn and lots of other people. So complicatedness. Okay, I went off on a tangent there. So I'm going to add that in. And what I need to do is kind of decide where it's going. I'm kind of going to insert it, like pause story of the world, insert this history of us, study of the first Americans, and then go back to story of the world before we get to the colonization. So I need to basically make a list of like the list of the chapters and what is being covered when. I realize that doesn't make sense. It will when I actually do it, but I don't know how to describe what I need to do there. So, and then I need to figure out what resources, what books and activities I want to do. I might do like kind of mini units, not units as we've done so far this year, like where they stop and they're really big units, but maybe just like a week or two where we have a few more resources on certain topics, things like Vikings. My son's just really interested in Vikings, also the Aztec, Inca, and Maya. I want to have more resources for that, so we might pause and spend a little more time on that. So that's something that we'll have to be aware of when I'm making my list of chapters and what's being covered when. I mean, maybe it's like a schedule, sort of schedule. Okay, so what books and activities I want to do, and then resources I need to acquire for them. So that's going to be, you know, books, supplies, etc. Let's see. What else do I need to do? I need to make a new timeline for this year. I made a timeline for, well, I made two from this past year because we did prehistory. So I had a prehistory timeline. It was really all of time, like the history of the earth timeline, I guess. And then I've had an ancient history timeline. And so I'm going to do one for this. I'll probably start in year 0 because this one went to 500. So they'll overlap a little bit. But year 0 through 1600. So I'll get to, there'll be more space in the time period because it's a short amount of time. So that'll be good. Make timeline and timeline cards. Just the cards that we put on, the people and places that we put on the timeline. It would be good to have some of those organized ahead of time, as well as like coloring pages, kind of organized more so ahead of time, would be ideal because I've been doing it as we go at this point. Well, then I'll probably make some lesson lists, or just, or charts, or both really. I'll just say charts and lesson lists. So my organization at the end so that I know what I'm planned on doing. So, okay. And if I think of other things as we go, I can always come and add it back in. Okay. So next is science and nature. I mentioned earlier that I want to print Exploring Nature with Children, so I'm going to include that here. I'd like to print and bind it. So I've actually already purchased Pandia Press's Real Science Odyssey Life curriculum, and I have that in PDF. So I'm going to print and bind that. So I don't know if I'm going to print the whole thing or if I'm just going to print out the student pages for her and then we'll read the rest on the computer, or how. I'm going to look over that and see what I want to do. Okay, and then that's going to take, I'm going to need a list of supplies. There is a place apparently where you can order like a whole, everything you would need for this curriculum. And I looked at it and it seemed pricey because I already have most of the stuff. And so I'm thinking that I'm going to look at it again, but I'm thinking that I'm just going to see if I can purchase the things I don't have and then collect the things that I have together and organize it. So let me like organize supplies. So it's all ready to go for when we need them. And then what additional books and see, I wrote it down on my list here. What additional books and resources, what do I have that can be used? Books and resources. What do I have? Also, I made a note, look at Steph Hathaway, Brave Grown Home, and other printable places that I've liked in the past. And acquire resources that if I need to. I do have a lot here, so I'm hoping to use a bunch of stuff that I already have. All right, I think that's it for, I'm thinking, so we have the Burgess Bird book, but I recently saw that there's one with colored pictures, which would be really nice. So if we have enough, if I'm not spending too much on other things, I might see if I can get that. Oh, and Burgess Flower book, which I don't have because I did really want that in color. Okay. Oh, I'm on a new page. Excellent, because we're switching here. All right. Oh, literature. I have like random thoughts here. Obviously, I've been writing down. I'm going to need to choose things. It's where we are. So choose literature selections. And I need to decide how many, because there's two different areas that I do literature in, and one is our family read alouds in the evening. I do choose some to do then, and I like to leave a couple open for kind of us to choose. Like right now, we went through a bunch that we had, and did a vote. So that's how we've done the last couple of our read alouds, but I do like to choose a couple. Partially because I like to, I have a lot that are tied in with our like history and such. And so sometimes there's more than one that I want to do. So some of them I do read aloud, and the other time I do things are during school time. And so I'll have to decide which are for read alouds and school time and schedule them. And then I need to decide if I'm doing Quiver or arrows, or which ones I'm doing Quivers or arrows for, and purchase any that I might need. So I have all of Quiver. So there's some books there like Mr. Popper's Penguin, Wheel on a School, and some others that we haven't done this year that I have the Quiver for already, so we can do those. But then there's some other books that I was just thinking about doing that I might go ahead and buy the individual arrows for. If it feels like it's too difficult for her, I can, like the way the arrows are organized, I can always simplify it. So that's not really a problem. I don't know if I should put it here later. I'm just going to put it here. I'm planning on doing fairy tales for Jot It Down. So I need to plan out the fairy tales for Jot It Down. I also will need to purchase any books I don't have that we've decided to do. What will probably end up happening is as I work through this, I'm going to end up with a giant list of things to purchase. And then I will go and dig through and find the best place to purchase them. I like to get as much used as I can. One, because it's more economical for me, and two, because I feel like it's better for the environment. And then I will order other things. If there's things that I can't find used for some reason, like maybe it's a newer book or it's just not economical to buy used, I do like to use there's a local bookstore that I like to give them business because I like that they're there. It's a small independently owned bookstore. What I might do is then call them and see if they either have or can order me the books and then go pick them up. That was literature. Okay, Italian. I already have a lot of resources for Italian, and I've been thinking about this a lot. We've actually started using TalkBox Mom more just in the last couple weeks as it's designed to be used. I wasn't using it well before. And so I want to be continuing to use TalkBox Mom. I've been thinking a lot about, like, I made notes here. Can you see that? There you go. Okay. I've been making notes here on like how often I'm going to do things. So I think I'm going to put that in here is like to schedule like when we're going to do like schedule / routine for Italian, because that's where I struggle the most. Okay. And then I have a lot of resources here. So I'm hoping to use the resources I have, and I'm going to, let's see, choose topics. So what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to use TalkBox Mom, and they have boxes that you get that have different themes, I guess is the best way to put it. So like the first one is snacks in the kitchen, and the next one is, it's called games and activities, but it's really like active words, and then like rooms around the house and such. But there's other topics that my kids will really be interested in that we've sort of covered before that I want to go over again. So things like animals, family members, clothing, since we're going to be doing so much in the garden and nature. So those are some of my ideas. So I'm going to choose some topics, and I'm kind of going to do like a focus on a TalkBox Mom for a week or two, like on one of their themes for a week or two. And then we'll continue practicing that while like the next couple of weeks we learn a topic I choose, and then we'll keep practicing. The idea is we'll go back and keep practicing everything as we move forward. And if we need to like stop on a topic for longer, we can. But I just want to have, so it's going to be like flexible. The schedule routine is like for the week, like how much we're doing. And then I'm going to have the different topics put out and resources for each of those topics. And then if we need to spend longer, like more weeks on each of those topics, we can, if that makes sense. So there. So choose topics and resources for topics. I think that's going to turn into lesson lists. And then there's a couple things I want to make. I want to choose songs for us to do that we'll do during circle time. And then, let's see. I want to make an Italian version of our calendar. It will be simple, but we've been counting the days, like the numbers up in Italian as well as English. I don't want to stop doing it in English because I have, she'll be 1 and she's learning language. So I want to make sure that since she's around, we're also counting in English and talking about, the months and the seasons and the weather, everything in English. But then I also want to have, I was debating between just making separate cards, but I think I'm going to make a separate little board. It won't look the same, but a separate little board for Italian where my bigger kids do the month and the season and the weather in Italian. So yeah, I want to make an Italian calendar that we'll do. Yeah. So there's that. Let's see. And then, books for myself. Books for me. We'll maybe just start with one. I want to read a book in Italian. It's a challenge for myself. And I'm trying to do Duolingo. I've been on and off with it, and that is what it is. For French, I might not start that right away. I have started Duolingo myself for French. I am finding the pronunciation really difficult because I've studied Spanish and Italian for so many years. So French is just pronounced very differently, but I'm trying my best, and it's good to have Duolingo has you say things, and every opportunity I can, I repeat after what they say. This might be something in the future that we do, like a TalkBox Mom of French, but it honestly, it's a little pricey, and I'm doing the Italian right now. But I need to figure out what I'm doing for French, so I need to find resources for basic French that will help me know how to pronounce it. And again, I was thinking of, just like numbers, greetings, colors, and such. And maybe some songs in French. And I have a good resource in that because my brother has a good friend who is French. he grew up in France. So, and my brother's been learning French and speaking to him, so I might use my brother and his resource. One note I had is to see if they have Teach Me Everyday French, because I have the Italian versions, volumes 1 and 2, and I think that would be a good start for us, so I might do that. But I think that's all I'm going to do for that for right now. I'm not gonna, if we don't get to it this year, it's not a big deal. It's just something I've been thinking of for a while. Okay. All right. Geography. So I know I have Paddle to the Sea. I have a nice copy of that. I'm excited about that. So schedule, like paddle, well, schedule all geography. Yeah. I don't know. Basically, that means like when, scheduling sounds so rigid, but I mean like when generally in the year are we going to read Paddle to the Sea, like what term, and where is it going to fit in, probably during morning time. So like probably like maybe once a week, but just thinking through that schedule in geography, we are going to be doing Story of the World with the maps with history. And so I will add coloring pages and maps here. One of the things I've been using and liking is in the activity book for Story of the World, she has map activities. And because my kids are not really drawn, they honestly don't love when I hand them just like a map. So having some direction of like, okay, color this area in is really helpful. So I like having those prompts in the activity books, and I will continue to use those. So I just added under history that I'm going to work on having the coloring pages and maps ready to go. But yeah, scheduling geography. I have Paddle to the Sea already. I have a PDF copy of Basic Geography, so I want to print and bind that out too. And then we can work through that. Yeah. I don't think we're really going to do U.S. states this year. I had thought about it, but I think I'm going to save that for a future year. But, I mean, we'll be touching on it a little bit, and I'll come back to that, to why later. Art. Art is pretty simple, but I do need to purchase Artistic Pursuits volumes 3 and 4. I'm going to get them with the supplies. Those ones I feel like are worth it. I did that last time, and yeah, those would be great. Lists of seasonal artwork I may want to do. Including holiday art / presents that we might want to do, and then supplies I need for that. And I might already have some supplies. I have a lot of craft things downstairs. So I think organizing the school supplies is more of a priority, mainly because they're more of a mess. But I'm just going to put, it's kind of together, and like also reorganize crafts. Or craft supplies. Okay. I think that's all I need to do for art. If I already put organized dining area, and that's where art supplies are, but it's not just art supplies, so I'm keeping that under miscellaneous and not under art. Oh, you know what I need to do? I need to go through this year's art. And process that. I don't even know. I am so sentimental. I have a hard time getting rid of things, so I need to figure out if you have a good system that works for you. I know I need to start getting rid of some of it. And maybe we just send it to family members. That seems like a good solution. But yeah, if you have any good solutions for what you do with your kids' artwork, let me know. It's just a constant struggle here. Okay, let's move on to the next thing, which is artist study. So I know I spent a lot of time in the video talking about this. Oh, artist study. And I've done even more thinking about it since then. So what I've decided, because I had so many artists I want to do, and the more research I did, I was like, oh, well, I need to do that one and that one because it's the Renaissance, and I love the Renaissance, and I love Renaissance art. So I'm going to take a couple of them to do a traditional traditional artist study for. So Giotto will be at the beginning, and then Leonardo da Vinci. And then what I'm going to do is that'll take us through like the first half of the year approximately. And then the second half of the year, what I'm going to do is basically an overview of many different artists. So it won't be as in-depth. So for Giotto and Leonardo, they'll each get probably about 8 pieces of artwork that we'll look at once a week, and we'll read resources on them. We'll have books, at least 1 or maybe 2 books on each one. I already have 2 or 3 on Leonardo, so there's plenty on that. And we might incorporate other activities specifically for that artist, or we will incorporate activities for those artists in that time period. And that's more of a deep dive into those artists and their lives. But for the overview, we won't be able to go as in depth in each artist, but we'll cover more artists. So what I did is I looked at the ones that are in the Artistic Pursuits book, and then there's a couple more I want to add. So for example, Brunelleschi is, well, he's an architect, but he designed the dome, the Duomo in Florence at, I've always heard it referred to as the Duomo, but I think it's Santa Maria del Fiori is the actual basilica. And anyway, there's a children's book on him called Pippo the Fool, so I want to incorporate that. I want to learn a little bit about Donatello. There's, I think Fra Angelico is not in there as well. So anyway, what I need to do is I'll make a list in what order we're going to cover them, and then some of them will have books, not many, just a few. Like Michelangelo is going to be covered in there, and there's a great Diane Stanley biography of him. And then some of them will have activities, such as, from the Artistic Pursuits book, or I also might get I might also get Discovering Great Artists, which is another book that has activities based on artists. And I also, Vincent Starry Night has short stories of several of them. So that being said, some of them will have stories or books, some of them will have activities, some of them will have both. The idea would be to spend 1 to 2 weeks depending on the artist, on each of those artists. So I'll have to list that out. So I think the first step will be decide on which artists and the order of studying them in. And then resources, activities for each artist. Resource activities, but also artwork. For each of those artists, I will have at least 1 piece of their art printed out. Probably more than 1 for each, and we'll just look at them all at once. Because if you just look at one, I feel if you look at more than 1, then it gives you a better idea of the artist. And then, yeah. And then what do I need to acquire? What do I need to purchase? It'd be books and any art supplies. I'm going to put here, Discovering Great Artists. Honestly, I've had that on my wish list since I decided to homeschool and my oldest was a toddler. So I'm just going to go ahead and get it. And if we use it, we do. If we don't, we don't. So, yeah. And then there's certain notes I have here, like the Yuan Dynasty. I'm going to include any art activities here when we get to that point in Story of the World. And I had to double check that Yuan Dynasty is the right time period for that. So yeah, basically there's certain areas that I want, when I want to fill them out more. So such as ancient China, probably ancient India, and then the Islamic, I'm going to call it the Islamic Golden Age. There's this Ibn al-Bawwab for calligraphy is, there's a short story on him on Vincent Starry Night. So I'm going to try to incorporate those when we get to that point in history so that we're also just incorporating art and culture as we go along. I'm just going to put under what books and activities I want to do. I want to make sure artists, just make a note, artists and composers or music. Let's just say art and music. Okay. All right, let's move on to composer study. So I'm also doing not a straight composer study. Well, okay, so here's what I'm going to do. First, we're going to do Guido d'Arezzo and an overview of medieval music. So Guido d'Arezzo is known for creating notation, music notation as we know it today. And there's the children's book on him that I think I found finally in the last video. And I can link that below as well. And then I couldn't find a lot of medieval composers that I wanted to spend like, you know, a whole term on other than Hildegard von Bingen. And we will spend a term on her. So the first term, I'm going to do an overview of other, you know, I don't know if it'll all be composers. It'll probably be composers. We'll talk about Gregorian chant. So basically an overview of medieval music. And so I'm going to look at what pieces of music were most influential, or what composers, and then we're going to do a term on Hildegard von Bingen. And then as we're doing our overview of Renaissance artists, we will also do just an overview of Renaissance music. But I'm going to just plan for it in like I know my terms got all messed up and I might rename them. It might be that like term 1 is July, August, September. Term 2 is October, November. And then we have holiday term. And then term 3 is January, February. And term 4 is March, April, May is how I think I'm going to do it. That just makes more sense to me. So I'm going to plan to do an overview of Renaissance music, much like I was talking about medieval music, in January, February. And then I'm not going to plan anything for March, April, May for music, because that'll just be like one less subject to do at that time. And then we can always continue on the Renaissance music if we find we don't get to everything we want to. So what I need to do is I need to choose composers / topics that we're going to cover, musical pieces, and then resources I need for them, and purchase those. I'm just going to put that together at this point. And then I'm going to need to make playlists. I like to make playlists on my computer, and then I've been making CDs so we can listen in the car as well. I did this past year, and that worked pretty well. I've not been adding to this, but really lesson lists need to happen with everything. So let me go back. Oh, lesson lists, because that helps me stay organized. Yeah, I'm even going to need that for art, because I'm not going to necessarily go in the order that they say. For French, I don't know. I am going to do lesson lists for science. All right, I'll have to fix that later, because I don't like when things are hanging up over the edge. Maybe if I just... It's probably going to change later anyway. Okay. Things will be adjusted at the end. All right, I think that's all I need to do for composer study. I'm going to move on. PE, I don't really need to do anything. I'm just going to leave that be. Health, I need to decide what I'm doing. Just try that. Decide what you're doing. I'm going to say decide topics to cover and resources. I'm going to keep it really simple. Honestly, if I do it like twice a year, I'm happy with that. So I'm just going to kind of skim over that at this point. All right. So I've got my second grader now. And let's see, for math, I'm going to look over where she is. Look over where she is in math, and what's the word I want? Topics, or how would you say topics for right now are coming up. But I don't think we need to purchase any materials. I have Math Mammoth grades 1 and 2, so I can look over that. I'll just say print out worksheets from Math Mammoth. And I don't print out the whole thing. I just print out certain worksheets that will act as review after we cover that. I don't think topic's the right word, but I can't think of concept. After we've covered that concept in other ways, I then will give her the worksheet to review and for her to have for her portfolio. So yeah, I think I just need to look over that and what concepts are coming up. I think I'm thinking of using Math in the Garden this July. And so I'm just going to look through that and see if there's activities there that would be particularly good for where we are. Okay, for handwork / copywork / grammar, we're doing Quiver, arrows, and jot it down. And so I want to prep. So I'm going to need to print the Quiver / arrows for me. That I don't print it for her. I print it for me this year. I put it in a 3-ring binder, each one that we were doing, because it's stuff that the instructor, I guess, if I'm the instructor or the guide, I'll just call myself a guide, that I read, and then I don't read word for word to her. I kind of explain it to her in my own words. I narrate what Julie Bogart says. And then I like to handwrite out in cursive the copywork because it's in print, and for her to go from reading the print to writing cursive, I think would be extra difficulty that I don't need to add on to her. So I like to write those out, and I've been doing it as we go, but I'm wondering if I can prep that in advance. Maybe even just by term. We'll see. Okay, and then I actually purchased Logic of English Foundations C and D, so that is all ready to go, and we will be switching like in a couple weeks. She's got like I think 2 weeks left of lessons, and then we will be taking probably a week or 2 off, and I'll just have her read some of her early readers during that time, and then we'll I might also spend that time to just review and make sure she's solid on the double letter phonograms that we've done in and the spelling lessons we've done in B, and then we're going to move on to C. We've been moving. She's already 7. She's gonna be 7.5 actually in June. So we've been moving through those really, really slowly, and she could go much faster. Like she's more advanced in her reading than where she is in there, but I see it as expanding her toolbox, and so I'm not trying to push her on it. We have recently come to the point where she's enjoying reading, so that's really good. So I don't think I need to do anything for that, except I'll need to like reorganize the Logic of English materials when we switch, although that's probably going to be before the new school year. For Jot It Down, I had already made a note before. So we're going to do practice reading. So I talked to her about having a reading chart. When she was younger, I think I got this idea from Brave Writer and Julie Bogart. We had a reading caterpillar where I made like a little head, and then there were circles, and each circle had a different book written on it, and so she'd get to put up and like add to the long caterpillar. And then when she got to a certain number of books, we had like ice cream or something. And so I talked to her about doing something like that again, and being the audacious 7-year-old that she is, she wants a dragon. She wants a reading dragon where each scale is a book. So I now have to figure out how to make a reading dragon. If you have any ideas, let me know. So I need to make a reading dragon. Yep. And I'll need to talk to my son because I might want to see if he wants his own reading thing, even though he's still just working through Foundations A right now. But I also got him like a Star Wars phonics set, so we're reading that on the side as well. And I'll get to him in a few minutes. Okay, for handwork, I just need to organize the handwork. She's got a lot of different things going on, and I'd kind of like to have a shelf in the library for the handwork. So, yeah, we'll see. I just need to organize that. For holiday presents, I think this is going to go up under miscellaneous, to be honest. You know what? It's going to go later. I'm going to have a holiday section. So I'm going to add that in the holiday section. We'll get there. Piano lessons, I don't think I need to add to this list. Although, I was thinking I want to do like maybe a piano practice chart for her. Question mark. I want to continue piano lessons next year, but we're still finishing up this year, and we'll have to see how they're doing it next year, and when I'm sure they will tell me how they're doing all that. Life skills binder. It's a big one. I'm putting an exclamation point there. Let's see. I think that's it. I was thinking of getting her like a vet. I saw like these vet coloring books. But I might just save that idea for birthday and Christmas. Let's move on to T, my kindergartner. I also need to look over where he is in math, but I'm fairly certain he will need a math notebook, because that's basically where we are. And when I look through Math in the Garden, I'll look for both of them, so I'm just going to leave that up there. When I purchased my Foundation C and D for my daughter, I also got the cursive student book for B, so that when my son finishes A, that is ready to go, and extra reading practice. So I'm going to ask him if he wants a reading chart of some sort. He'll probably ask me for like a Darth Vader or something. I don't even know if I can make that happen. He's really into Star Wars right now. Okay. Handwork. I want to start doing more handwork with him. That he's going to do his kindergarten year. And so I need to like schedule in, when are we going to do handwork? Because to be honest, my daughter will just do it. Like Saturday afternoon, she feels like doing handwork, she'll pick it up. So she just does it occasionally, but my son not as much, and I just want to give him some skills. So, and also prep handwork. So I think I wanted to do some sewing skills work with him, because his sister started a quilt and he's not there yet. So, and he expressed interest. So I'm going to work on getting him the skills so that maybe next year he can work on a quilt. Okay. I need to schedule in preschool prodigies, because I want him to do that, and maybe a chart for that as well for practice. Life skills binder. We're definitely going to be working on picking up room. We're constantly working on that. And how do we handle big emotions? I talked about that in circle time with the feeling stuff. For the baby, I don't know if there's a lot I need to do for the baby, because again, she's my third baby toddler. But I do want to go through, there's a lot of like toddler materials along with the school stuff. So I will go through that when I go through the school materials, but I just, I'm just going to say go through toddler materials and maybe list of toddler activities for her, so that I feel more prepared and organized. I think I have all the stuff I need, but I will just make a question mark. Do I need anything? As I'm going through them, if I think of things, I can get them. Maybe I need to make sure I set aside some time for reading specifically to her. Yeah, because that was something I had obviously much more time to do when I didn't have two older kids. I was homeschooling and a gigantic garden. All right, so this is something I didn't talk about last time that I added, and this is government and elections. So if you're in the United States, or even not in the United States, hopefully you know the U.S. has a big election this year. We have elections every year, but every 2 years, all of the United States House of Representatives are up for re-election. And every 4 years, we have a presidential election. So this year is 2020, so we have a presidential election. We have, we'll have to vote for a U.S. House of Representatives again. Well, we just have one here in Vermont. That's how few people we have. And senators, I don't know if any of our senators are up this year. I have to check. So generally, a third of the senators in the U.S. Senate are up every year. They serve 6-year terms, or every 2 years. A third of them are up for re-election. And generally how it works is a state, I think, generally wouldn't have both of their senators up for re-election at the same time, be one or the other. So I haven't heard anything, and I don't think we do. But I'll double check on that. And okay, so anyway, I'm a bit of a political nerd. I majored in government in college, and then I went to law school. So I'm interested in government. And I want to make sure my children know how our government works and how our elections work. And they are pretty young. And so I will be going over this pretty much over and over again as they get older at other levels. But this is also a way for me to cover in history okay, so it says that they want you to cover U.S. and Vermont history, citizenship, and geography. And I don't know if they need you to do that every year or not. It's unclear. So to be safe, I'm trying to incorporate a little bit every year. And so this year I thought covering elections would be great to do. I know a lot about, I know who our representatives are in the U.S. Congress. I actually don't know who my state representative is from our county. So I need to do some more research on that. So what I thought is I would learn more about myself. I'd learn more about our state representatives. I know who the governor is, and I know that we have, I think our both houses Democratic. We have, I think both the House and Senate are Democratic led, and then our governor is Republican. I think that's how it is right now. But again, I don't know who my representative is, and so I should know that. And I probably have more than one. So I know we have a Senate and a House. And so I think we're going to learn more about that. And then what I want to do is I want to have maps for the kids up on the wall and for me. So of the U.S., of our state, and like Vermont counties. And then when there's the big election in November for the United States, we can kind of mark where states, how states voted. And I will have like a chart for them of how the Electoral College works. So leading up to it, I'm hoping to explain that to them. And then I also like if you watch election night coverage, often the networks have like a chart of like, they'll show all the seats in the Senate with like the red dots and the blue dots and maybe purple ones for independents. And they have the same thing in the House. And then they'll show you like what happens if like these people win or that people win, how the like balance changes. And so I kind of want to do like House and Senate maps. Maybe. I think doing the other maps. So I mentioned before, so we'll see the states and we'll talk about them in this context, but yeah. And I'm trying to keep it basic. I just want to give them an overview, let them ask questions. I have a book. I know I have at least one book I want to read, We the People, which just talks about our Constitution and how our government is structured a little bit. And then I have a game on the Electoral College, and I don't know if they're old enough to play it yet, so I'll have to look into that. Oh, holiday school. Okay, good. I almost forgot about it. Okay, so I need to decide what I want to cover. What are we? Because some ideas are like St. Nicholas and St. Lucia. The kids both, we talked about them briefly last year, but I realized I could get books on them and we could do more about them. So hopefully we'll do that. And then I might do like evergreens, and I'll do something with music. I'll do either or some combination of like Handel's Messiah, Tchaikovsky's Nutcracker, or just Christmas carols. I know Squilt has a Christmas carols bundle, so we might do that. So I need to decide on that, and then I need to acquire resources. And then I like to do an Advent calendar, and I have like a little fabric thing I made that has like little pockets. And so the goal is to have like a little card in each pocket, and then they pull out the card and tells them, and my original idea was to do an activity each day. That honestly it's a little much to do an activity every day in December. So I need to plan out what we're doing for each card, and I don't think they're all going to be activities. I think they're going to be activities / prompts. I don't know. So I don't know how to describe this, but I want to focus on kindness. So it might just be what's something kind that somebody has done for you in the past week, or, you know, like things like that, or other kindness focused activities, or kindness and generosity. So yeah, so I want to have all that planned out ahead of time, because if I don't, then it doesn't usually happen. And then I need to prep cards and any supplies that I need. And then anything else. Oh, holiday presents. So holiday art and presents, decide, and have supplies ready to go. So I think that's my whole list. I'm not sure. There might be some things that I add to miscellaneous or whatnot. I'll probably take a day to just make sure I have everything I want on the list. And then I'm going to print it out and put it on a clipboard, and I will, hopefully my plan right now is to try to get up early in the mornings and tackle it a little bit at a time each morning. Thank you so much for watching. I think the next parts that I'm going to do is more of a deep dive on particular subject areas. So in particular history, I'll show you how I put together circle time and some other areas as well. And then of course, I will wrap up this series with showing you my organization and how I do my lesson lists and charts for the year. And then that'll probably run right into the setup for my homeschool planner. So that's what's coming up in this series. There will be some other videos sprinkled in throughout. As always, if you have questions and comments, please leave them below. I love to read and respond to your comments, and I love to see those likes as well. So if you haven't already, click that thumbs up button. I hope you and your families are doing well and you're all having fun planning the next homeschool year. Until next time, I'll talk to you later.